You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. One pattern I notice over and over again in my office is that families will tell me, we need a better routine. And then we start mapping out what is actually happening. The kid is supposed to get dressed, eat breakfast, pack the backpack, fill the water bottle, find the shoes, remember the library book, and get out the door. But the routine is not really carrying all of that. The parent is. The parent is the alarm clock, the calendar, the finder of the shoes, the homework portal, the weather app, the lunchbox manager. The person who somehow knows that Tuesday is spirit day, Wednesday is early release, and Thursday requires a potato, a shoebox, and an empty paper towel roll with absolutely no explanation. And the parent is also the live action push notification system. Shoes, backpack. Did you brush your teeth? Your water bottle is still on the counter. We're leaving in 5 minutes. No, actually 5 minutes, not kid minutes. Then everybody gets frustrated. The parents think, why do I have to say the same thing every single day? And the kid thinks, why is everyone yelling at me? And the family concludes that they are bad at routines. But here's the reframe. A parent repeating the same sequence more loudly is not a routine. That is one exhausted adult carrying the entire system in their head. I have heard bright, capable school-age kids say versions of, I forget when there are too many steps. And I have heard parents say, we never really had a set routine. And now that they're older, trying to add one just feels impossible. Neither side is lazy, and neither side is failing. The system is simply asking too much memory, initiation, sequencing, and emotional regulation from everyone at the same time of day when everyone has the least capacity. So in this episode, we're not building a prettier chart. We are building a routine that actually does some of the remembering for you. Welcome back to Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy Patenaude. I'm a school psychologist, endurance athlete, a mom, and your school psych mom friend who helps you translate the two worlds where school-age kids spend most of their time, home and school. This is episode number 2 in our Back to School series about staying one step ahead of the school year. In the last episode, we talked about the back to school year checklist nobody gives parents. We talked about the dates, forms, energy, transitions, and invisible planning that never make it onto the school supply list. I asked you to choose one tiny win instead of trying to renovate your entire family operating system before the first day of school. In this episode, we are taking the next step. We're talking about routines, but not the kind that require a laminator, 14 color-coded bin, and a family meeting that somehow needs its own agenda. By the end of this episode, you will understand why routines can reduce stress without becoming rigid, how to identify the one place your family routine actually breaks, and how to build 3 simple anchors that can work from kindergarten through 8th grade. Because the goal is not to run your family like a military academy. The goal is to stop renegotiating the same predictable parts of the day while everyone is hungry, late, tired, or trying to locate that one missing crock. Here's the big idea for this episode. A routine is a decision your family does not have to remake every day. Now, I know some of you are already bracing yourselves because when somebody says you need a routine, it can land like deeply unhelpful advice. Thank you so much for that unhelpful advice, friend. I had not considered the revolutionary idea of getting my kid ready before leaving the house. I mean, oh my gosh. But right, really, you have tried routines. You've tried that chart. You've made the chart. You've printed the checklist. Maybe you even purchased one of those cute little dry erase boards with very high hopes. God bless you if you have a skylight calendar in it now. As one family told me earlier this week in session, it just is where they look at pictures. You may have announced that backpacks live on those hooks now, but they never make it to the hooks. And backpacks have responded by living literally everywhere except those hooks. You've tried being calm. You've tried being firm. You've tried saying natural consequences. And then you have personally driven the missing homework to school because apparently natural consequences have a scheduling conflict. This is hard for real reasons, friend. Families are not operating in some sort of controlled laboratory. One kid needs more support while another kid needs you to stop looking in their direction. A kindergartner and an eighth grader should not have the same routine. A child with ADHD, anxiety, autism, dyslexia, sensory differences, or a big reaction to transitions may need more external structure than a sibling who seems to move through the day on autopilot. And parents have executive function too. Sometimes the person who is supposed to hold the routine is also tired, distracted, running late, managing work messages, and wondering whether there is anything in the refrigerator that legally counts as dinner. So no, the answer is not just be more consistent. The better question is, what would make the next step easier to recognize and easier to start? That is where a routine becomes useful instead of performative. Now, let us talk about what a routine is doing for the brain. Executive functions are the skills that help us manage goal-directed behavior. They include holding information in mind, stopping an impulse, shifting between tasks, planning, organizing, monitoring time, and adjusting when something changes. So when you say, go get ready, your adult brain may hear one familiar instruction. Your kid's brain may hear, stop what you're doing, remember every part of getting ready, decide what comes first, ignore that Lego set over there, the phone, the sibling, the dog, and the fact that one sock feels wrong for some reason. And do all of that quickly because an adult is now standing in the doorway with car keys and a facial expression. And you know that facial expression I'm talking about, friend. It's kind of scary. So friends, that is not one task for a kid. That is an executive function obstacle course wearing a 2-word instruction. That is why get ready is not a routine. It is a vague corporate memo sent to a kid with no action items. Routines help by making the sequence more familiar and more predictable. They can move some of the thinking out of the moment instead of generating a fresh plan every morning. The child sees the same cue, follows a short sequence, and learns what comes next. Y'all are going to have to forgive me because I'm going to get super nerdy on you for a minute. There was a recent systematic review of 170 studies, and they found that routines were generally associated with positive outcomes across cognitive, self-regulation, social, emotional, academic, and health domains, with possible predictive value in challenging environments. Now, that is association. It's not proof that one checklist causes success, and the studies varied widely. The useful takeaway is this: repeated, predictable patterns can provide structure and practice. What it does support is the larger idea that repeated, predictable patterns can provide structure that helps children know what to expect and practice everyday skills. In a different study, it was an earlier review of 50 years of family routine research. That study similarly found links between routines and child adjustment, parenting competence, and family functioning, while also noting meaningful limitations in how the studies were conducted. So I want you to hold two ideas at the same time. Routines matter, and routines do not have to be perfect to matter. The purpose is not control. The purpose is reducing unnecessary cognitive work so your family has more capacity for the things that cannot be automated in life. The first teaching point in this episode is this: a useful routine should carry some of the remembering so the parent doesn't have to. If the entire plan only exists in your head, you don't have a family routine. You have proprietary software that only runs on mom or dad or a fellow caregiver. And when that person is unavailable, maybe they're tired or traveling, working, sick, or simply in the shower, the system crashes. A routine becomes more usable when the cue and the steps live where the behavior happens, not in your memory, not in a beautifully designed binder nobody opens, at the point of performance. If your child needs to remember shoes, water bottle, and a backpack before leaving, the cue belongs near the door. If your child needs to unpack papers, the paper spot belongs near the backpack landing zone. If the middle schooler needs a charge device, the charger needs a predictable home, and the reminder needs to happen before the battery is at 3% during first period. This is called externalizing the task. You are taking invisible mental steps and making them visible in the environment. That may be a short list, a picture cue, maybe it's a phone alarm, a 3-word launch list like shoes, water, backpack. That is enough. And I want to say this clearly for parents of older kids. Needing an external cue does not mean your kid is immature. Adults use calendars, alarms, checklists, GPS, automatic bill pay, and grocery lists every day. We don't call that babying ourselves. We call it Tuesday. Now, a 6th grader may reject a sticker chart and still benefit from a checklist in their phone. An 8th grader may not want you standing over the backpack, but they may agree to a 2-minute evening check at a predictable time. Independence is not the complete absence of support. Independence is support designed to become less visible over time. The support can move from adult words to a visual cue, to a phone reminder, to the child noticing the need independently. That is development, not a magical birthday when your child suddenly wakes up with a fully functioning project management department. So look at the parts of your day where you repeat the same reminder and ask yourself this: can the environment say this instead of me? Because every direction you can move out of your mouth is one fewer chance for the morning to become a courtroom drama. A visual checklist is not you babying your kid. It's moving the instructions out of your mouth and into the environment. The second teaching point is that the best routine starts with the place your day actually gets stuck, not the place Instagram says should matter, the actual bottleneck. A bottleneck is the one small point that slows down the whole sequence. Maybe the morning is mostly fine until shoes. Maybe after school is fine until you ask a question. Maybe homework is fine once it starts. But starting takes 45 minutes and the emotional support of a small legal team. Maybe the child completes the work but never puts it in the backpack. Maybe activity nights are not hard because of the activity. They are hard because everyone comes home at 7:30 hungry, nobody has showered, and the forgotten reading log is waiting on the kitchen table like a threat. When I'm looking at a routine clinically, I'm not asking, does this family have a schedule? I'm asking, where does the sequence break down? Does it break down at initiation? Is it working memory, time awareness, capacity, sensory or emotional overload? Those questions change how we support the family. I have heard children in evaluations explain very plainly to me, I forget things when I have too many steps. I have also heard older elementary kids say that a list helps, that a quieter space helps, or that they can do the work once someone helps them cross the starting line. And I have also heard parents recognize, with a mix of relief and frustration, we didn't build a consistent homework time when they were younger, and now we are trying to reset it. That's not a reason for shame. The start of a school year is a natural opportunity to reset expectations and practice a different sequence before the demands are at full volume. Research on household chaos is relevant here, but I want to use it carefully. In the research, household chaos refers to patterns such as disorganization, high background stimulation, lack of predictability, inconsistent routines, and a fast pace. Not a home with toys on the floor and a parent who forgot a picture day. A scoping review of 112 studies found consistent correlations between greater household chaos and a wide range of adverse child, parent, and family outcomes. The authors of this review were also very clear that the research was heterogeneous, Quality was not formally assessed, and intervention studies had not shown that simply reducing chaos caused better outcomes. Now, a separate study of 128 kindergarten age kids found small but significant associations among greater household chaos, lower parental responsiveness, and lower performance on executive function tasks. Because the study was cross sectional, it can't tell us what caused what. So, I'm not telling you that your child needs a color coded mudroom to develop executive function. I am telling you, though, that when the day has fewer unpredictable friction points, both children and adults may have more capacity to respond instead of react. You don't need a routine for every minute. You need a bridge over the same pothole your family hits every day. The best routine does not organize your whole life. It removes one predictable argument from your day. Now, the third teaching point is where I want to protect you from overbuilding. A routine is not the same thing as a rigid schedule. A schedule says exactly when something happens. A routine says what comes next. That difference matters for real families. But snack, reset, check the plan, then begin the first school task can travel across different days. I like to think about 3 anchors for the school day. Anchor number 1 is the morning launch. The morning launch is the final short sequence that gets the kid from home to the door. Not every hygiene task they have completed since birth. The final 3 to 5 things are most often forgotten. Shoes and socks, water, backpack, medication if applicable, lunch. For a younger child, this may be pictures by the door. For an older kid, it may be a phone checklist or a note inside the backpack. The point is not that the child never needs a prompt. The point is that the prompt becomes consistent and brief. Instead of 17 unrelated reminders, you can say, check your lunch list. Anchor number 2 is the after-school landing. The after-school landing is what happens before the second shift of the day begins. This is where many families accidentally go from pickup directly into questions, homework, after-school activities, chores, and then it just becomes this emotional hostage situation that nobody wants to be in. A landing routine can be very simple. Backpack down and put away. Fuel and hydrate first. A short low-demand reset for your kid. Brief connection. Then one clear next step. The first afternoon of school can be a much bigger shock than the first morning. This is why your free after-school reset guide, which is linked in the show notes, is the companion resource for this entire series I'm doing on back to school. We're not removing expectations. We're putting regulation before performance. Now, the final anchor is the evening close. The evening close is a 2 to 5 minute reset that helps tomorrow start with fewer surprises. This is not the time for some sort of archaeological excavation of the backpack. It is the minimum closing sequence. Papers go where they belong, device goes on a charger, the uniform or clothes for tomorrow are identified and possibly laid out. Backpack is near the launch point. There's one glance at the plan for tomorrow. Now, the Healthy Children Guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends easing children into school year sleep schedules before school starts, using a consistent, calming bedtime routine, organizing materials, and practicing new routes or transitions. Notice that none of those recommendations require perfection. They use repetition and preparation to reduce novelty. And I want to add one thing that matters for your K through 8 kiddos. The older your child gets, the more we build the routine with them instead of doing it to them. A kindergartner may need you to design the steps. A 4th grader can help choose the order and the cue. A middle schooler should have a voice in which tool they will actually use and which adult check and feel supportive instead of intrusive. You're still the adult. You're not opening a family referendum on whether school attendance is optional, but collaboration increases the chance that the routine is realistic enough to survive contact with your actual kid. And finally, every routine needs a minimum version. Maybe the full evening close is this: papers, calendar, lunch, clothes, and backpack. And the minimum version could just be charger, backpack, shoes, period. Consistency does not mean doing the full routine perfectly every day. Consistency means the next step stays recognizable, even when the routine gets smaller. The best routine is not the one that works on your calmest Monday. It's the one your family can still use on your messiest Thursday. Now, here's the school psych in your back pocket moment. When I look at a routine, I want to know 4 things. First, what is the cue? A routine needs a reliable starting signal. The alarm rings, the child walks through the door, dinner ends, the device goes on the charger. A routine without a cue is mostly a hope that somebody remembers. Question number 2 is this. What are the few visible steps? Not 14 steps, 3 to 5 steps. If it can't fit on a sticky note, it may be too big for the first version. You can always add complexity later. First, build a sequence that the child can recognize. The third question I like to ask is, where does support enter? Does the child need you to start with them? Do they need a visual, a timer, a quiet space, a choice between 2 acceptable orders, a brief check at the end? Support is not moral failure. It is part of teaching a routine. And once the routine becomes familiar, you can test whether the support can fade. And the fourth question I like to ask is, what is the reset when it falls apart? Because it will. The routine needs a repair plan that is not shame. You might try something like, we lost the routine, let's go back the next step. Not, see, this never works because nobody listens to me. The reset is part of the routine. So your 4-part audit is like this. Cue, few visible steps, support, reset. That's enough to turn a vague expectation into something your family can actually practice. Let's translate something schools do very well at the beginning of the school year. Teachers teach routines explicitly. They show students where to put materials. They model how to enter the room. They practice how to transition. They give the cue. They prompt the steps. And when the class forgets, they reteach it. They don't stand at the front of the room on day 2 and say, you're in 4th grade now. You should instinctively understand my dismissal system. Y'all, that would be absurd. But at home, we sometimes expect children to infer an entire routine from the phrase, you know what you're supposed to do. Repetition is instruction. Prompting during the learning phase is instruction. Reteaching after a break is instruction. Here's some things you might want to ask. What cue helps them begin? What checklist or visual does the class use? What does the teacher say when it's time to transition? Let's talk about a couple ways that this can look in real life. The first example I want to give is the morning that begins with get ready. You say, get ready, and then 10 minutes later, your child has put on one sock and is explaining a YouTube video you have never seen. Instead of repeating the global instruction, try a launch routine. Clothes, teeth, breakfast, then check the door list. For a child who struggles with multiple steps, give 1 or 2 at a time. The support should match the child, not the grade level printed on the school form. Another place this shows up is the backpack that becomes this like paper swamp. You have folders, they are labeled, they had so much potential. And by Thursday, the backpack contains 3 loose worksheets, a permission slip, a fossilized snack, and a library book that entered the witness protection program. Try a 2-minute reset attached to a cue. Might do something like after snack, papers out, trash out, folders back in, stop. Don't turn this into some sort of 45-minute organization seminar where we Marie Kondo the whole backpack. Another place where this might show up is the after-school handoff. Your child gets in the car, you ask how the day went, they say fine. You ask one more question. Now everyone is in a fight about tone. The routine may need to begin before conversation. Pick up, water, snack, music, quiet landing, then connection. That sequence is not avoiding your child. It's recognizing that the after-school brain may need some recovery before reflection. Let's talk about the activity night. Family gets home late. The normal routine is not happening. This is where the minimum version matters. Food, shower hygiene, check tomorrow, charge what needs charging, bed. The minimum version protects the essentials without pretending Tuesday night has the same capacity as Sunday afternoon. Let's talk about the bedtime reset. If bedtime is drifted over summer, resist the urge to move it by 2 hours in one night and announce that everyone is now a morning person. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends beginning the shift before school starts and using a consistent calming routine. Move the time gradually. Keep the sequence familiar. And remember that a child lying in bed is not the same as a child whose body is ready for sleep. The routine can support the transition, but it can't bully the nervous system into unconsciousness. Now, let's talk about a big feeling kid reframe here. When you introduce a routine, your child may resist it. They may complain, argue, move at the speed of refrigerated syrup, tell you the old way was better, even though the old way involved everyone yelling and one missing shoe. The behavior might be saying, I don't want summer to end. This new plan reminds me that school is getting close. I don't know whether I can meet these expectations. There are too many steps. I need more warning before I shift. I want some control over a day that suddenly feels controlled by everyone else. I can do this, but I can't do it at the speed you are demanding right now. Resistance does not automatically mean the routine is wrong, and it doesn't automatically mean you need to become stricter. It may mean the routine needs to be smaller, clearer, practiced, or built with more child input. A routine should support the child. It should not become another place where your child repeatedly experiences themselves as the problem. And this is the middle lane. The expectation can stay, the shame can go. You can say, this is still our plan, while also asking, which part is making this hard to start? Now, here are some parenting scripts that you can borrow from me. Script number 1, when you are introducing the routine, you can say something like this. We are not changing everything. We are practicing one part of the day, so neither of us has to keep remembering it from scratch. Script number 2, when your child says, I know, you know what I'm talking about. You can say this, I believe you know. The checklist is not there because you are not smart. It is there so your brain doesn't have to hold every step. Script number 3, when the routine is too big, you might say something like this. Let's find the part where this gets stuck. Do you need help starting, remembering the order, or knowing when you are done? Script number 4, when your older kid needs ownership, you might say something like this. These 3 things have to happen before tomorrow. Do you want a phone reminder, a paper list, or a 2-minute check-in with me? Script number 5, when you need the boundary, you can say, I can help with the routine. I'm not available to be yelled at. We can pause for 2 minutes and try the next step again. And here's the parent script I want to leave you with. A hard morning does not mean the system failed. It gives me data about what needs to be smaller. All right, let's talk tiny wins. Remember, pick one is enough. We're building a routine and we're not opening some sort of franchise. Tiny win number 1, choose one friction point. Maybe it's morning shoes, backpack papers, after school questions, homework, bedtime, devices, 1. Tiny win number 2, replace get ready with 3 visible steps. Write the steps where they happen, keep them short, use pictures for younger kids, and a phone note or an alarm for older kiddos. Tiny win number 3, move one reminder out of your mouth. Put the cue on the door, by the charger, inside the backpack, next to the shoes. If you don't know this about me, I love a good sticky note. I have them all over my house. It's probably my ADHD. Put it on a sticky note. Let the environment carry one reminder for you. Tiny win number 4, practice once before you need it. Run the launch list. Practice the backpack landing. Try the after-school reset after camp or an activity. Don't wait for the highest pressure morning to introduce the plan. Tiny win number 5, define the minimum version. What are the 3 things that still matter on the hardest day? Write those down. That is the routine your family is most likely to keep. Before we wrap up this episode, here are a few tiny wins for the podcast. First, share this episode with a parent who is currently serving as the family calendar, alarm clock, shoe detective, and live action push notification system. Share it with them. They need to hear this. Second, make sure you follow the Psych to Parent podcast wherever you'd like to listen to podcasts so you don't miss the rest of our back to school series on staying one step ahead this school year. Third, grab the free after school reset guide that's linked in the show notes. The after school landing is one of the 3 anchors we talked about in this episode, and the guide gives you the exact order. Drop the load, fuel and hydrate, create a quiet landing, connect briefly. Then transition into what comes next. It includes scripts and a build your own reset plan so you don't have to create this from scratch while your child is melting down and somebody's asking, what's for dinner? Finally, come find me on Instagram at Psych to Parent. We're building a community of parents, of big feeling, big brained, big hearted kiddos, where I share tips, tricks, and tools so we all feel a little less alone, myself included. So if your current family routine is one parent remembering everything and repeating it until everyone is irritated, I want you to hear this. You are not bad at routines. Your system may simply be relying too heavily on human memory during high-pressure parts of the day. A routine should carry some of the remembering. It should make the next step recognizable. It should be short enough to use when your family is tired and your brain feels fried. And it should have a reset for the days when life laughs at your plan, because it will. You don't need a perfect morning. You need fewer decisions at the exact moment everyone has the least capacity. Remember, a routine is a decision your family does not have to make every day. Get the steps out of your head, find the bottleneck, build 3 anchors, and let the minimum version count. We're not building a perfect school year. We're building a family system that can survive the messy middle, one small, doable step at a time. In the next episode, we are going to talk about what is normal during the first weeks of school. Because once the routine begins, every tired child, rough drop-off, forgotten paper, and weird friendship moment can start to feel like evidence that the school year is already going badly. It's not all evidence. Some of it is adjustment. Some of it's data. And in the next episode, I will help you know the difference. But this week, choose one routine, make the next step visible. That's enough. And the next time you sit at that tiny round table in that tiny chair, remember, schools have expertise, and you are the expert on your child. Your insight is not extra, it's essential. You're not behind, you're building a partnership, and you're building skills, yours and theirs, one small, doable step at a time. Until next time, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not so typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.